Hey, you're going to move on with Subpart C of 1904. So, days away cases. If you do have to record a days away case, someone's missing one or more days from work, then you do not include the day of the injury for your day count. It always starts with the day after that injury. So that will be your first day in that day away. So if it's day away or restricted or transferred, any of those things that you're counting, it's the calendar days that the person's unable to work, including weekends, holidays, vacations, even if you're not open Saturday or Sundays. Those are days that you're counting. Now you cap it at 6 months, 180 days, or if the worker leaves the company for any reason, then you can stop your count, and you must have a medical opinion if you're going to stop your count within that time frame, if you can. So restricted cases, with the restricted cases, those mean that, let's say you can't do 25 pounds, you can't lift 25 pounds at your employment, but you can lift 10 pounds, you're restricted. So therefore, again, you don't count the day of the restriction, but every other day after for that 180 days. So the restriction is if you can't perform one or more routine functions, regular activity, at least once per week of your job, and any employee cannot work any full work days, and it's again your recommendation from your professional licensed healthcare provider, then you are restricted. So that's what you have there. A job assignment, if you're injured or ill and you can't work, let's say in the field, so we have to put you in the office to file. So that is if you're assigned to a job other than your regular duties for part of the day or even a complete day, then you are transferred. So if you perform his or her routine job duties of part of the day and assigned to another job the rest of the day. Medical treatment, it's management and care of a patient to combat a disease or disorder. It does not include if you're doing a visit for observation or counseling, diagnostic, or first aid. So those things do not apply. So here are your first aid cases. So first aid means you're not getting medical treatment. This is something minor. So non-prescription medication at a non-prescription strength is first aid. Tetanus immunization, first aid. Cleaning, flushing, and soaking surface wounds, first aid. If you're covering a bandage, steri strips, anything that is just actually bonding or covering of a wound. If you are penetrating the skin, like suturing, then that is medical treatment. Cold hot therapy, that is first aid. If you have any non-rigid support, like an ace bandage, where someone can still flex their wrists or flex their hands or knees, that is first aid. Temporary immobilization devices used to transport an accident victim is first aid, meaning you're holding them down, strapping them down temporarily until they get to wherever they're going to get diagnosed or observed. Then that doesn't count as medical treatment yet. If you are drilling or lancing, they may call it a fingernail, a toenail for draining a blister. That is first aid. Your eye patches. If you're removing a foreign body in the eye and it's using irrigation or cotton swab, that's first aid. But if you are removing it with tweezers or anything else other than tweezers, magnet, let's say, if it's a metal filing and it's lodged in the eye, then that is medical treatment at that point. Finger guard, though it is rigid support, it's only on the finger, that's still first aid. Massages and drinking fluids for stress, or relief from heat stress, that's first aid. So moving on to loss of consciousness. All work-related cases involving loss of consciousness must be recorded. So regardless of what happened leading up to that, once it's work-related, and you get your definition for work-related earlier on, then you must record that. If you're working in a situation where you're exposed to bloodborne pathogen, if there's any splashes or other exposure of potentially infectious material, that becomes a recordable instance. So if there's a needle, stick, a cut, any of that contamination, all blood is and bodily fluids are thought of as being potentially infectious. So that goes into your 300 log. So you'll do an incident report and then record that. Medical treatment, or excuse me, medical removal. Record any case involving medical removal because of medical surveillance requirement of an Osha standard. So let's say it's the lead standard or silica dust or something where the doctor says that there is too much of the actual contaminant in the person's body or bloodstream and they have to be removed. Then now you're going to record that. The case is recorded as either a day away work, restricted, transferred. But if the person voluntarily removes themselves and their level is still below the standard, whatever the OSHA standard level is, you don't need to record that because that is voluntary at that point. The hearing loss. If your worker from their baseline from the previous year had what's called a standard threshold shift, meaning in one or both ears, they're hearing a tone at 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 hertz. If that tone needs to be cranked up an additional 10 decibels from the previous baseline in one or both of the ears, then that is one condition of a hearing loss. The other condition is overall the average of all one ear or both ears of all three tones has to be cranked up at a decibel 25 decibels or more above the autometric zero. Then now that is a case where the worker themselves has a hearing loss. So that's how you record that. It's an and scenario. You need both of those conditions to apply before it is a hearing loss. So there is a computation for that, for the standard threshold shift. And you can see that in 1910, section 95. And you do have that audiometric baseline that you could use depending on the person's age. And there's some other factors. So you can find that in 1910, 95. Tuberculosis cases. If you are exposed to tuberculosis at work, and if there is someone with a known case of active tuberculosis, or they develop active tuberculosis from the workplace setting, then it is recordable unless the worker is living with the person diagnosed with active TB, or a public health department has identified the worker as a contact of any individual with active TB. So they've been notified from the public health department that someone in their circle of influence has TB. Medical investigation shows that the employee's infection was caused by exposure away from work. So there may be another cause. And if the medical professional says, no, that's not work-related because of the way I see this, then their professional opinion is what you're looking at. I mentioned a bunch of forms already, so let's talk about these forms. There are three major forms for OSHA. One is your 300 log. That is the log for reporting your workplace injury and illnesses. The 300A log is a summary at the end of the year for your work-related illness and injuries. And then the 301 is an incident form that you use. I'll show you the 300 first. So as you're looking at this 300, you'll see the top is giving you your establishment name, the city and state of the establishment. Don't forget to put the year on the very top right corner. And from A, B, C, D, E, and F, those headings going down there all the way to M, what you do is giving a case number, a unique case number. You can even start with 1, that's fine. So you get that case number first, the employee's name, their job title, then D, the date of the onset of the illness or injury, and then E, where the event occurred. So don't say your physical address. You want to be specific, wherever that site was. The loading dock is the example they give you, or the southwest corner of the warehouse at this. So wherever that is. F, be as descriptive as you can with whatever the injury was, and you're going to give the description of the injury, part of the body that's affected, and then any object or substance that was directly injured, and use as many lines as it takes. So if it's 2, 3, 4 lines, that's fine. Then your next entry will come, a space after that last part in F. So you may have 6 lines down, and then case number 2 will begin. That's okay. Classifying the case in the G, H, I, and J section, pick the one that is the most strict. So if it was a fatality, you're hitting G. If they had days away, then that is H. If it's only a restriction but they didn't miss any work, that's I. And then J is if it's other recordable, but you could, what you're doing is just picking one, only one, and it's the most severe. In K and L, this is where you're giving the number count. So it's possible if you had a restriction and days away from work that you could have something written in K and L. So you could just whatever the actual days are. And then when you're in section M, you're going to click on or you check the injury column to choose one type of illness. So if it's an injury, then you're just going to do 1. If it's an illness, then you pick the most applicable illness from 2, 3, 4, and 5. And you tally everything up on the bottom with your page totals after you're done. If you need several pages, make sure you number those. So you have on the bottom if it's page 1 of 1, 2 of 2. So that's how you would do that 300 form. Your 301 form, your incident form, starting from left to right, that left column is who's completing it, the title of the person, the phone number, and the date that they're completing this. Then you're giving the employee that was involved their full name and the address of the employee, their date of birth, the date they're hiring, and their sex. 6 is going to say the name of the physician that took care of them. 7 is the actual address of the facility they're at. Number 8 is if it was emergency room treatment or not. Number 9 is if the employee was hospitalized overnight as an inpatient or not. 10, whatever that case number is in your log. So you're basically going to transfer that case number from your 300 log. So you put that case number in there. The date of the injury again, the time employee began to work, and then the time of the event is going to be noted because you check if time cannot be determined. So if you don't know, then just check that little box. Number 14 says, what was the employee doing before the incident? So really describe the events leading up to that incident. And if you need another page, just fine, you can attach it in the back. 15, what happened? So you're going to say exactly what caused the accident. Then you're going to say what the injury or illness was. And that's 16. And then 17, if there's an object or substance directly harming the employee, you want to write that down as well. So if the employee died, you're putting the actual date of death as that number 18. So this should all be filled out. If you need some additional paper, you just fill it out or type it out and print it and put it attached to the sheet. You have to do this within 7 calendar days that you receive the injury, the recordable injury. You have to do this 300 and the 301 logs within 7 calendar days to make sure that that's in. Now at the end of the year, you have to post this, and this is just a physical transformation of just the numbers from that 300 log. So in that 300 log where you did your tally, That section G tally goes in that G spot here. H tallies age, I goes for I, and J goes for J, obviously. And then the number of days you put down there, and then the M, the total number of those M1 cases, M2 cases, 3, 4, and 5. So the total number of those. And then you put down your establishment location, what you do in your SIC code, Standard Industrial Classification Code, and that's if you know it, but it's very good to know. And then you're going to average out your annual average number of your employees. Then you're going to give them the hours. This is going into a formula that's called your total recordable injury rate, and it could go into it'll be your numbers for your days away restricted transfer rates. So those two rates they'll have to know, and you have to have the person that is the executive there certify that they understand what's been written in this document, they've been told, and that company executive has to sign their name and their title onto this. So if you're not the company executive, then you should not be signing this 300-day summary form. It is posted February 1st to April 30th, and that is in a high place of traffic, so everyone could see where this is being posted. So I did tell you about that 7 calendar days needs to go up. It's okay if you want to use an equivalent form, as long as it has all of OSHA's information. You can keep it on the computer as well. If there is a privacy case, something that's very, very sensitive in nature, instead of the person's name, you're going to write privacy concern cases, just the privacy case in the name column, and you're going to keep this on the side. So here's some examples of where you wouldn't want to put someone's name. So they say intimate body part or reproductive system was damaged, or sexual assault, mental illness, and HIV infection, any of those things over here. You keep this stuff, the employee can request to have their name kept off the log as well. So if you see that, then that will be a privacy case. So if it's a privacy case, people who are going to see this is going to be either an auditor, a consultant, workers' comp or insurance agency, or if law enforcement or a public health authority needs to see who it is, those people are allowed to have that disclosed. So that's it for Subpart C, both sections. I know it's a little longer, but there's a lot to do in Subpart C, so now we're going to go into that Subpart D section.